I spent 2 years planning the perfect gift. Not a birthday present or a holiday sweater, something real. Something big, a week-long luxury trip to Europe for my parents and me. I booked five-star hotels, private tours, dinner cruises, even reserved front row seats to a Mozart concert in Vienna. Every detail, meticulously arranged. I wanted them to experience something magical, and I wanted to share it with them. The morning of our flight, I pulled into my parents' driveway right on time. 6 a.m., sharp. When I honked, my mom stepped out dragging a suitcase. Then, another figure emerged behind her. My sister Lauren. Lauren. My unemployed, carefree, can't keep a job for more than 6 months sister, who hadn't contributed a dime to this trip. Yet there she was, grinning like this was her moment. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice tight. My mom smiled, as if this was no big deal. "Violet, sweetheart, we decided Lauren's going with us instead. She's been so stressed lately and really needs this." I stood frozen. "Instead of me, Mom? I've been planning this for years. I paid for everything." She waved her hand dismissively, as if I just pointed out something trivial. "And we're grateful, sweetheart, but you're always working so hard. You can take another trip later. Lauren needs this right now." Lauren didn't even have the decency to look guilty. She just smirked, shifting her weight onto one hip. "Thanks for understanding, sis," she said, her tone dripping with fake gratitude. I wanted to scream. Instead, I swallowed the hurt. Numb, I opened the trunk and loaded their bags. The drive to the airport was almost silent. My mom chatted with Lauren about shopping in Paris. My dad stared out the window like a coward. Lauren scrolled on her phone, occasionally bragging about TikToks she wanted to recreate. No one asked how I felt. Not once. At one point, my dad cleared his throat. "Thank you for driving us, Violet. I know this probably feels unusual." I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "Unusual? That's an interesting way to put it, Dad." He didn't respond. He just shifted uncomfortably in his seat, probably wishing he hadn't spoken at all. Lauren leaned forward from the back seat, her voice grating. "You're not mad, right? I mean, this is really big of you, letting me go. I could never have afforded this on my own." I clenched my jaw and forced a tight smile. "Of course, Lauren. Enjoy the trip." By the time we pulled up to the airport drop-off zone, my patience was hanging by a thread as I helped unload their luggage. My mom gave me a hug. "Thank you for understanding, sweetheart. This means a lot to us and to Lauren." I nodded stiffly. "Sure, Mom." Lauren beamed as she wheeled her suitcase toward the entrance. "Thanks, Violet. You're the best." I stood there watching them disappear into the terminal, my chest tight with anger and hurt. The ride back home was a blur. I replayed the conversation in my head over and over, each word cutting deeper than the last. "This means a lot to Lauren. You're not mad, right? You're always working so hard." I parked in my driveway and sat in the car for a few minutes, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I got home, grabbed my laptop, and calmly, methodically canceled every single reservation. Hotel bookings? Gone. Private city tours? Refunded. Upgraded flights and transportation? Cancelled. I kept the return flights. I'm not cruel. But every luxury I had arranged, I unraveled it. When I closed my laptop, a sense of satisfaction settled over me. They could explain themselves to the front desk staff in Paris. I was done being their doormat. The call started as soon as their flight landed. My phone buzzed repeatedly as I unpacked my suitcase. The one I'd packed so carefully for a trip that was no longer mine. The irony wasn't lost on me as I hung up my dresses and neatly placed my shoes back on the shelf. The buzzing continued, filling the room with its relentless vibration. I sighed, picking up the phone and glancing at the screen. My mom's name flashed across it, accompanied by several missed calls and texts. I unlocked the phone and scrolled through the messages. "Violet, what's going on? The hotel won't let us check in. The reservation is missing. Call me immediately." "Violet, this isn't funny. Fix this now." A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Fix this? They really thought I'd swoop in and save the day after what they'd done. The phone buzzed again, this time with a call from Lauren. I let it ring out, only for her to leave a voicemail. "Violet, this is so petty," she snapped, her voice dripping with entitlement. "We're stuck here because of you. You need to call the hotel and fix it now." I rolled my eyes and deleted the voicemail without listening to the rest. For years, I'd been their fixer, the one who smoothed over every mistake and picked up every slack. Not anymore. Eventually, I decided to answer, if only to stop the barrage of calls. My mom's voice hit me like a tidal wave of anger as soon as I picked up. "Violet, what did you do?" "The hotel says the reservation was canceled, and none of the tours are booked anymore." I let her rant for a moment, then calmly replied, "I canceled them." There was a long, stunned silence before she hissed, "Why would you do that?" "Oh, I don't know," I said, my tone laced with sarcasm. "Maybe because you decided to take Lauren on my trip. You're lucky I even drove you to the airport. We thought you'd understand," she snapped. "Understand what?" I asked, my voice rising. That years of saving and planning didn't matter because Lauren needed a break? I hung up before she could respond and turned my phone off, tossing it onto the couch. The silence that followed was blissful, and I felt like I could breathe again. If they wanted to prioritize Lauren, fine, but they could figure out the rest of the trip without me. The silence lasted only a day. By the next morning, my phone was buzzing again with calls and messages. At first, I ignored them. I spent the day cleaning the house and catching up on work, but curiosity got the better of me. By evening, I opened my phone and braced myself for the storm of texts from my mom. Violet, you've gone too far. Your sister is in tears, and your father is furious. We can't get into any of the hotels you booked. From Lauren, you're acting like a child. I don't get why you're making this such a big deal. Just fix it already. And finally, from my dad, we need to talk. This isn't right. I set the phone down, shaking my head. For years, I'd been the one to fix things, to make sure everyone was comfortable and happy. Now that I'd taken a step back, they didn't know how to handle it. I poured myself a cup of tea and sat down at the kitchen table, letting the anger simmer. How dare they expect me to clean up their mess? How dare they act like I was the one in the wrong? The next few days, I kept my phone off and my peace on. I went for walks, journaled, did things for me, not for them. When I finally turned my phone back on, there were dozens of voicemails. Lauren, you're being so petty. Do you know how embarrassing this is? My mom, we're your parents. You don't treat family like this. My dad, you're better than this. That one stung. For years, I was the responsible one, the reasonable one. They expected me to keep the peace while Lauren made messes. I was the glue until I stopped holding everything together. Then came the call I answered. It was my dad. Violet. He said, this has gone too far. Has it? I replied. Or have I just stopped being your safety net? He sighed. We made one mistake. One? I laughed. This wasn't a mistake. This was the result of years of treating Lauren like the center of the universe. You cut me out of my own gift, a trip I paid for. You didn't even ask. Silence. We just thought Lauren needed it more. She always needs more. And I'm always expected to give it. Not anymore. I ended the call. When my parents and Lauren finally returned, I was waiting for them at their house. I parked in their driveway, sipping coffee and feeling surprisingly calm as I watched their taxi pull up. As they stepped out, dragging their suitcases behind them, their faces were a mix of exhaustion and irritation. Lauren was the first to speak. Well, I hope you're happy, Violet. I raised an eyebrow, staying seated on the porch swing. Happy about what? Our trip was a disaster, my mom snapped, waving her hand as if to brush the whole thing away. We spent the entire week staying in dingy hotels and eating terrible food because we couldn't afford anything decent. And don't get me started on the tours, Lauren chimed in, crossing her arms. Oh, wait, there weren't any. Do you know how embarrassing it was to show up and be told there was no reservation? I took another sip of coffee, letting their complaints wash over me. Sounds rough, I said finally, my voice calm. But you wanted to take Lauren, remember? That's not the point, my mom shot back, her voice rising. You knew we couldn't afford all the things you'd planned. You set us up to fail. And I stood up, setting my mug down on the small table next to me. No, Mom, I didn't set you up for anything. I planned a trip for the three of us, something special. I'd been saving for years. You're the ones who decided to cut me out at the last second. My dad finally spoke up, his tone quieter, but no less accusatory. You didn't have to cancel everything, Violet. That was extreme. Was it? I asked, folding my arms. Why should I have paid for a trip I wasn't even invited to? If Lauren needed it so badly, you should have planned it yourselves. You are lucky that I didn't cancel the return flight. Lauren rolled her eyes. You're so dramatic. It's just money, Violet. And you're so entitled, I shot back, my patience finally snapping. Do you have any idea how much work and sacrifice went into planning that trip? Or do you just assume things magically appear for you because someone else takes care of it? They stood there, stunned into silence for a moment. I've spent years being the responsible one, I continued, my voice steady but firm, the one who fixes things, plans things, makes sure everything runs smoothly, and you've spent just as long taking it all for granted. That's not fair. My mom started to speak, but I held up a hand to stop her. No, Mom. What's not fair is how you treated me. You chose Lauren over me, like always, so I chose to stop being your doormat. You didn't want me on the trip, fine, but you don't get to enjoy the benefits of my hard work without me. I grabbed my bag from the porch swing and turned to leave. I'm glad you're back safely. But don't expect things to go back to the way they were. I'm done. As I walked to my car, I heard them calling after me, their voices a mix of anger and guilt, but I didn't look back. The next few weeks were liberating. I stopped answering every call. I started living for myself. I started making small changes that felt big in their own way. I redecorated my living room, swapping out the hand-me-down furniture from my parents for pieces that felt uniquely mine. I spent weekends exploring local cafes and parks, things I'd always meant to do but never made time for. And I started journaling, writing down my thoughts and dreams without filtering them through the lens of what anyone else might think. Each small step felt like reclaiming a part of myself I hadn't realized I'd lost. One night, I opened the spreadsheet I'd used to plan the trip. I didn't feel bitter. I felt free. That money wasn't wasted, it was reallocated. Closing the spreadsheet, I opened a new browser tab and typed solo travel ideas. Weeks later, I landed in Rome. Alone, empowered, free, I explored ruins, ate pasta in alleyway cafes, took blurry photos of sunsets I didn't need to share with anyone. On the Spanish steps, with gelato in one hand and a journal in the other, I wrote down a new list: learn Italian, travel to 5 more countries, start a business, live life unapologetically. On my last night in Rome, I had dinner at a small, family-run restaurant overlooking the Arno River. As I watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, I felt a deep sense of peace. This trip had been more than just a vacation. It was a turning point. I'd spent so much of my life trying to earn my family's approval, but here, thousands of miles away, I realized something important. I didn't need it. I was enough, just as I was. When I returned home, my parents tried to reach out again, this time with softer tones and carefully worded messages. Hope you had a nice trip. One text from my mom read, maybe we can all talk soon. I stared at the message for a moment before setting my phone down. I wasn't ready to reply, and that was okay. This time, it would be on my terms. As I unpacked my suitcase and placed souvenirs on my shelves, I felt a sense of pride. When I did call back, her voice was soft. Maybe we handled things poorly. Maybe? I echoed. We didn't realize how much it would hurt you. You never do. She paused. We'll try to do better. I nodded. Then show me. Don't just say it. After the call, I felt a mix of emotions. Relief that they were finally acknowledging their behavior and skepticism about whether they'd actually change. But as I sat down with my journal that evening, I realized something important: whether or not they changed wasn't my responsibility. Over the following months, I kept my boundaries firm. I responded to their calls and texts when I felt like it, but I didn't go out of my way to fix things or smooth over conflicts. Instead, I focused on building the life I wanted. I signed up for a photography class, something I'd always dreamed of doing but never had the time or energy for. I joined a local hiking group and even started planning my next solo trip. Each step I took felt like reclaiming another part of myself. One evening, watching the sunset from my porch, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was free, and finally, for the first time in years, I wasn't the family fixer. I was just Violet, and that was more than enough.